Hi, guys. Enjoy the pictures while I talk about how people weaponize your mental illness against you, how to spot it, and maybe even what to do. So, have you ever noticed how some people stop listening to you the moment they find out that you're struggling with a mental health issue? Suddenly, every single emotion you express is, quote, a symptom. Every boundary you set is you overreacting. And every time you stand up for yourself, it's dismissed as you being unstable. That's not a concern. That's called weaponization. And today, we're going to talk about what it looks like, why it's so damaging, and how to protect yourself when it happens. Because it can be, people are just icky and gross. So you need to do something. So let's start with what weaponizing mental illness actually means. It's when someone uses your diagnosis, your past struggles, or your vulnerability as a tool to discredit, control, or silence you. Instead of engaging with what you're saying, they attack who you are. You say, that hurt me. They say, you're just anxious. You say, that wasn't okay. They say, you're being paranoid. They call out, or you call out disrespect. They call it a breakdown. And the conversation is over because now it's no longer about accountability. It's it's about you and it's about your mental health, right? And it's about you being on trial for your mental health. So, one of the most painful parts of this is that it often comes from people who claim to care about you, friends, partners, family members, even coworkers. They'll say things like, "Oh, I'm just worried about you," or "Are you sure this isn't your illness talking?" Has that ever happened to you guys? Are you starting to be able to relate to what I'm saying? Because, yeah, um, it's really abusive. But here's the truth, okay? The concern doesn't erase your voice. Real support doesn't dismiss your reality. Real care doesn't invalidate your feelings. And real love doesn't turn your diagnosis into a weapon. Let's talk about why this is so harmful, okay? When people weaponize your mental illness, it teaches you to doubt yourself. And aren't we always doing that? Aren't we always doubting ourselves? Are we laughing too hard? Are we crying too hard? Are we acting different? You start second guessing your emotions. You wonder if your reactions are real or, quote, just in your head. You stop speaking up because it feels safer to stay quiet than to be labeled crazy or too much. Over time, this is going to erode your confidence, your sense of reality, and your ability to trust your own judgment. Isn't that disgusting that people would do that to you? If you have somebody like this in your life, you need to drop them like a hot potato. And it's not accidental that this is happening. Silencing someone by questioning their sanity has been used throughout history, and it's a power move. And here's something that needs to be said clearly. And listen to this, okay? Having a mental illness does not make you incapable of truth. You can have depression and still recognize mistreatment. You can have anxiety and still sense when something is wrong. You can have PTSD and still set valid boundaries, right? Of course you can. Of course you can. Mental illness affects how you experience the world, not whether your experiences are real. I'm going to read that again. Mental illness affects how you experience the world, not whether your experiences are real. And anyone who tells you otherwise is either deeply misinformed or intentionally being manipulative. So, how do you protect yourself? First, separate your feelings from their narrative. Just because someone labels your reaction as a, quote, symptom doesn't mean it is. Ask yourself, what actually happened? How did it make me feel? Would this reaction make sense if someone else experienced the same thing? Clarity lives in facts, not labels. Okay? Clarity lives in facts, not labels. Second, stop over explaining. You do not have to prove your sanity to be respected. You don't owe a psychological report every time you express discomfort. A simple, that's not okay with me, is enough. If someone requires you to justify your boundaries with your diagnosis, they are not interested in understanding. You're interested in control, right? That's what they're doing. Third, notice patterns, not apologies. Someone who truly supports your mental health will listen without dismissing. They will respect your boundaries, right? Of course they would. If they cared, right? Take accountability when they hurt you. Someone who weaponizes it will bring up your illness only during conflict. They will use it to avoid responsibility. They will make it to where you feel small for speaking up. Believe what people show you repeatedly. I've always said that. When people show you who they are, listen. And finally, this is important. You are not hard to love because you have a mental illness. You are not manipulative for having emotions. You are not broken because you need support. Your awareness, your healing, and your voice are not threats, even if they feel threatening to other people. They're just not. I'm sorry. They're not. You have a right to be upset just like anyone else does. And it has nothing to do with that. So if you're watching this and you've had your mental health used against you, I want you to hear this. You're allowed to take up space. You're allowed to be believed, and you're allowed to walk away from anyone who turns your pain into a weapon. Healing does not mean becoming quieter. Sometimes it means becoming apologetically clear. If this resonated with you, feel free to like, comment, and share your experiences here with me. You are not alone in this. You never were. And set those boundaries. All right, you guys. Talk to you next time. Bye.